Hey everyone, super glad to be here with y'all. Our pregame meetings were amazing. It was really good to be able to meet everybody a little bit and talk about what we're going to talk about today. And we have some amazing questions prepared, but also questions already coming in from uh, Facebook, Twitch, Instagram before today. So why don't we get started by having everyone introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, and why you're here in this panel, and then we'll get into questions and conversation. I'm looking forward to it. These are some amazing people and some really beautiful stories and life challenges that have led to incredible life paths. So I'm excited to have everybody share with you. Looking at the screen, how about we go to my left here, Atara.
I am Torri Valentine. I am an artist who uses health and wellness as the base of my musical work. I live in Los Angeles, and I'm very happy to be here.
I'm going to ask you, and I'll ask each of you, can you please tell me 3 things that you're super proud of that you've done in your life? And that could be personal, it could be career.
Yeah. I would say number 1 is I'm alive, and the road to where I am now has been very rocky and full of surprises. So that's probably my biggest thing that I'm the proud of. 2, I have a single coming out tomorrow. It's my first original single that I'm releasing after 2.5 years of unblocking. I finally got enough nerve to release it. And 3, to be able to so openly share my story with people now and see how much we can affect people just by sharing things that we've gone through in our own life. So being able to access my vulnerability in a way that I never was able to before without any shame or embarrassment is probably one of my biggest accomplishments as well.
And that's huge and beautiful. That's awesome. Thank you so much. I'm going to go around here. We're going to say hello to Savannah.
Hey everyone, Savannah Britt. I am the CEO of the Britt Print Agency. We are a public relations, marketing, and content creation firm based in New York. I recently moved to Lagos, so I've been living in Lagos, Nigeria for the past 6 months. I am a proud LGBT ally, and I'm so happy to be a part of this panel. And 3 things that I'm grateful for, yes?
No, 3. Proud of? That's a really good thing to do as well. Gratitude every day is beautiful. Actually, 3 things that you're very proud that you've accomplished in your life, either personal or career. It's really important to. We're gonna. Basically, there's a couple reasons for this. Number 1, I think as creators, and certainly in the world we live in, we're often focused on like what we want to do next, and we can forget like, oh my gosh, I've accomplished this, and I did that, and reflecting on that can really be empowering. But also, if we share that right now, the audience listening and ourselves, we can be really rooting for you, proud of you, and throughout the panel, you will feel less inclined to need to validate yourself or drop in and say, oh, well, I did this thing, right? Like, let's establish how awesome you are right here from the start.
Oh, I'm ready, girl. Let's do it. I'm proud to be alive, like Atara said. It's a blessing that we take for granted, and I'm so happy about that accomplishment because I've lived like 10 lives.
Right.
I'm also proud of myself. Well, I'm happy that I accomplished moving across the world to Lagos, Nigeria. I'm back in New Jersey now, but it was the biggest decision I've ever made in my entire life.
Yeah.
And then another thing would just be just being self-made and being able to run a self-sufficient business. I've never had a 9-to-5, never had a formal internship. I've always been a self-starter. So yeah, I'm really happy with that accomplishment. It's gotten me very far and opened the doors where I can meet a great community of people like individuals like yourself.
That's fantastic. I'm proud of you for those things.
Thank you.
Laura, let's introduce Laura.
Hi, everybody. I'm happy to be here. Laura Payne. I work for Live Nation Entertainment. The proud accomplishment at that career is being the leader for Pride Nation LA chapter, which is an employee resource group supporting our LGBTQ community. And I really love doing it. It's one of my favorite parts of the job. Longtime equal rights activist, especially supporting LGBTQ families. I'm proud of my 2 sons who are adults now, Chris and Jared, and proud and happy and grateful for my the love of my life, who I met last year, going strong. And it took a long time, but glad we got there. That I was able to find her in this lifetime.
That's fantastic. That's beautiful. And it's never too late, and you got the whole rest of your life to love and enjoy. So, and I would imagine at this time in your life, you're also like better, in some ways, better equipped and more clear about like what works, and that's not a big deal anymore. And
lots of lessons learned along the way, and I can apply them now, and it's working beautifully.
That's wonderful. I love that. All right, Brianne McKay.
Guys, I'm Bree. I live in West Hollywood, but my job has me traveling all over. I work mostly in live events and festivals. I do a lot with sponsorships. So I feel like my 13-year-old dreams had come true as somebody that had always attended Warped Tour and later on Coachella. And now I get to run big teams and play with a lot of makeup. I do a lot of makeup marketing sponsorships. And on top of that, that kind of led me to a really fun and diverse Instagram following. I am pansexual, and it's amazing how social media has made this community just gravitate like a little magnet to my Instagram. So they follow me on my travels, but I also feel such a community and responsibility to all these teens who are watching my life on the internet.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I actually really admire and appreciate that you say you feel a responsibility for it, because it is, you know, your platform, what you share, it influences people. And so knowing that you want to do that responsibly is really powerful and meaningful. And, you know, as we can see, I think more than ever, here we are communing on Zoom. You know, humanity and human connection is the most important thing. And so for you to have a community that connects and a tribe that bonds and inspires each other and is supportive, it's wonderful.
Thank you. That means a lot.
Wonderful. All right, Torri, Shack.
Hey, thanks for having me. My name is Torri Shack. I'm the executive director and founder of Tangible Movement. We're a 501c3 nonprofit organization that was formed to inspire, educate, and provide tangible support for youth and young adults who are struggling with mental illness, suicidal ideation, addiction, and sexual and gender identity issues. And I guess the things I'm proud of most is starting this organization in 2015, and that's when I really came to terms with my own mental health condition, which I've been struggling with since I was 14. I'm also proud to be alive. I'm a 2-time attempted suicide survivor. I was also homeless at one time, living out of my car with my dog Rufus, who's here with me today. So super happy to be able to share the message of hope along with mental health. And within the LGBTQ community, I am gay. I'm a lesbian. I identify as her. And I'm really just happy to be here to be able to show support for the mental health community and the LGBTQ and ally community. And that's it. Oh, and Laura. Oh, wait, one more thing. I'm recently married. And that's another big, huge accomplishment. I thought I was going to die alone. So, Laura, I totally relate to you. I actually bought a book that said How to Die Alone like 2 weeks before I met my wife.
Wow.
Yes. So I'm telling you, I was sure I was never going to have a partner that was going to like really love me, like for me. So, yay to us.
Yes. Well, I'm gonna put the trifecta on that. I'm recently dating my girlfriend, who I feel very certain is my wife. She actually said yes when I hadn't proposed yet in the ice cream aisle. So I think we're on our way.
That's perfect.
It's amazing. And I'm moving right now. I'm looking for places to move, and one of the places had this beautiful backyard, and I was like, we could get married back here. So agreed. It's a blessing. It's a beautiful, I can't say total surprise, but a little bit of like, woo, finally amazing. And yes, that feeling of, and I think this is this is absolutely the place in the panel to say, it's like I've read about it, I've heard about it, I've seen it in movies, although I think the movies lie, that
totally
love is not, in a gown with the New York skyline behind you in an expensive penthouse. It's the really simple moments of someone experiencing your vulnerability and loving you, and you, like for me, feeling like I'm at home with someone, like incredible. And absolutely being a part of the queer community, I did not experience that over and over and over in my life. And a lot of times not even realizing it, that I was experiencing not feeling accepted, not being seen. So to be seen and loved for who I am, and literally in the moment go, wait, really? You get this? Amazing. So let me introduce myself, and we'll go into some questions. I'm Wendy Parr. I'm a holistic vocal coach. I work with recording artists and aspiring artists, and I really work with the whole human, the mind, the mental game, the emotional game, the spiritual game, the vocal game. So, being an artist, being a creator is not just about the craft that we do, whether you're a painter or a filmmaker. There's the skill set, and then there's the life skills and having emotional education, emotional maturity, emotional literacy. So I really deal with that. And there's a lot to deal with being on the road. There's a lot to deal with celebrity. There's a lot to deal with the pressures of life. So I do that, and I'm a founder of the Artist Circle, which is a community for creators of every style, every genre, every discipline, and it's a space where we come together to recognize each other. We have conversations about things that creators deal with: fear, resistance. We do mindfulness and wellness work, and we do career building. So I've had Janelle Monáe's branding person there. We've done meditation and sound baths. And really it's about bringing the tribe of creatives together to have a space to talk about the things that we deal with. And really these are your friends, your mentors, and your creative collaborators. Amazing new artistic collaborations have come from it. So we're going to start our first question, which is about what does being an ally mean to you? So I know that I heard some amazing personal stories from you guys. Excuse me for saying guys, general non-gender word to me, actually. Call me a dude, call me a guy, call me a girl, I don't care. So, but apologies, because people have been bothered by it. I'm like, it's kind of, for me, it's like y'all. So y'all, but I'm not, I live in LA, so that also feels awkward. We need some new words. We need some new non-gender words, actually. I really do think so. Like, spouse doesn't feel very loving, and partner feels like a business. We need some new words. That would be being an ally. Let's find some new words. So what does being an ally mean to you? I know that a number of you have talked about not having allies, or having an ally really created a life change for you. So Torri, would you like to share a little bit? You talked about growing up in Orange County and lacking some resources, which led you to your life's path, which is, to me, evidence of how life's challenges are really there to help you overcome them, because there's something beautiful that you're going to experience and give back from. And you've really done that. So I already applaud you for that. You want to share with us?
Sure. Yeah. Thank you so much. Sure. Yes, I am from Orange County, California, behind the orange curtain. I currently live in Santa Monica, California. I got out of there as soon as I graduated high school. I couldn't wait to get out of there. It was very white, non-diverse, and no gays, no nothing. Right when I grew up.
I'm going to say that you knew of.
I was going to say.
Yeah,
there's no way there were no gays.
no, in the pool that I was in, you're right. We were all definitely probably closeted at that point. But, I guess if there's any parents out there watching, for sure, being an ally starts with being a parent who's going to, help and accept, the offspring, child, whatever you want to call the individual as being their identity, whatever they choose it to be. The way I grew up was not anything like that. I grew up Jewish, but I got in a lot of trouble. So my father sent me to Catholic high school because he thought the nuns would be able to deal with me a little bit better. And, I was struggling with my sexual identity. I was an internalized homophobe. My father was a homophobe, and he was a staunch racist at the time. And just so the stigma for mental health and for me being gay, this is how it was he told my mom I can go to therapy, but that we could only pay cash and not use any insurance because he didn't want any paper trail at all, period, of mental illness or any gayness or any of that in the family. So for me, it was rough right out of the gate. Also, friends of mine did not have any experience with any gay people at all, period, ever, at all. So that was also very difficult for me because I was afraid to come out to them because they thought, and it did happen, they thought that I was attracted to them. Like I'm attracted to every female just because I'm gay.
I got that one too from a friend when I came out much later to her, and she's like, "Well, what about all the times we slept over?" I was like, "I was not like wanting you any of those times. We've been friends forever. Stop it."
And also, don't flatter yourself.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm like, no. Okay.
I mean, I think if we were having a sleepover and I had a crush on you, like you'd probably know it, right? Like. Anyway, I get you. And similarly, I was sent to therapy to get straight.
Yeah, basically. And my dad's. Oh, since then we have a great relationship now. It's taken many years. I'm not going to age myself, but definitely I'm older than I look. And he's very supportive now. The racism has gone way down. I grew out of that as well in college. But being an ally to me is being somebody who's going to be accepting of me or as I am, for who I am. I actually identify as non-binary. That term did not exist when I was growing up. I didn't know what that meant, it took me a couple of years until I really kind of said, okay, this is what I am. And again, I don't identify as they them because again, I don't feel like that's a term that's like you're just talking about, Wendy. That's a gender neutral term that I feel comfortable with.
Right.
So I think being an ally also is coming up with maybe some other alternative terms that could be used to help identify. But
I really relate to what you're saying in that, last year, I started hearing, and I'm sure it's not just last year, but I started hearing the term gender nonconforming, and I was like, that's the closest, that's the closest thing I've ever seen that represents me and how I understand myself. And that same thing, I'm 49. I will be 50 this year. I don't know how that happened, but here we are. And I was like, I'm 49, and I've never seen that. Last year there was a TV show with a character, Gentleman Jack, and I was like, that's me on screen. I've never seen me on screen in my whole life. I didn't know how much I needed it. I did understand when Hunger Games or Wonder Woman came out, how important that was for my niece to see a superhero that's a female, because that's rare, right? And then when Black Panther came out, I'm like, that's a cultural revolution. That is not just a film. I didn't know I needed that until I saw it. I was like, wow, I'm grateful for what I've seen, like when the women's soccer team, when they won the Olympics and they kissed their wife, one of them was kissing their wife in the stand. I was like, I've never seen that in my life. I'm so grateful today's generation is going to see that all the time. That is, of course, that's normal. That's regular. So it is. It's so important, I would say, for allies is to allow representation. And, what you said is so important about being tolerant and accepting. And of course, that's really difficult to do when you're not of yourself. I'm super respectful of your father, who was able to grow with the opportunity of knowing, right? And not everyone does. So to learn first to heal yourself and be tolerant and love yourself enables us to be tolerant and love other people. It's got to start here to go there. But 100% agree that being an ally is being accepting, being loving, and not just, I'm right, you're wrong. We'll never meet. No one will ever meet with that perspective.
Yep.
Shout out. I'm sorry. My friend Christoph, who is a straight male, he asked me the other day, as just out of the blue, as an ally, what are some good LGBTQ documentaries I can watch? And the fact that he wanted to expose himself and research on his own time so he could see more into the community and feel more empowered if he were to stand up for one of us, if he was in a conversation. I think having the cojones to stick up for someone, even if they're a stranger, and surround yourself and arm yourself with information, I think that's a really, really strong allyship move.
That's awesome. I love that he, as you said, he was voluntarily and asking, saying, how can I educate myself? How can I? That's kudos to him. That's wonderful. Torri, did you want to add anything in terms of like what you're doing with, or I just want to make sure I don't cut you off.
Oh, the tangible movement, as far as how I came to that, was at 14. I'm 41 now, and so I've been struggling with mental illness and coming to terms with my sexuality really since I was 14. I came out when I was in college, fully came out. But I started a tangible movement as a result of coming to full acceptance of my own mental health condition. I'm bipolar type 2. And, I was always extremely ashamed of that and extremely ashamed of being part of the LGBTQ community as well. So, as far as my gratitude is concerned, what I do now is I see tangible movement as an altruistic movement. And it's for me, at a certain age, money isn't everything anymore, at least for me. And I need to give back. And so this was my way of starting this nonprofit to give back. So I speak at schools, colleges, medical conferences, corporations all over the United States, talking about topics of mental health and LGBTQ gender identity issues. And so I think in that sense, I'm also helping to create allies by telling my story and having my ambassadors tell their story as well, to say, okay, and normalize it more or less. And then they can bring that into their families. So, yeah, that's about it.
Fantastic. And I'm going to remind everybody that in each person's name tag are the organizations. So if you're watching this right now, you can get in touch with the people that are speaking. You can get in touch with the organizations, reach out, bring Torri to your school or to your Zoom class. I think that's fantastic. Yeah, through your actions, you are educating and creating allies. That's really powerful. I love that. And I'm glad you're alive because here you are affecting the world. So thank you. I'm so glad that you had the grace and the will to be here.
Thanks. I appreciate it.
Tara.
Yeah.
You spoke about being bullied. And one of the things that I really recall you saying that was not having a space that was inclusive and that's what you are creating. So you want to tell us about that?
Yeah, definitely. I think the thing that I came across the most, and I still do, I'm a very open person at this point in my life, but I feel like even the pressure of someone having to come out, and the need to make a public announcement to then be validated by people is so unfair, right? And it creates so much stress in ourselves to the point, in my life, I never thought I was different from anybody. I thought we were all the same. And then one day someone called me a faggot for the first time when I was 7 years old. And I was not obviously interested in anything at that point. And it kind of stuck with me to the point that as I did mature sexually and I had feelings for girls and I also had feelings for guys. And when those started to develop, I felt so embarrassed by them that I also tried to kill myself several times and just felt like all of a sudden everything that I knew in my life was taken away from me. And I was made to feel like I was different from people. So even now, I'm very careful with terminology and putting myself in a box because it doesn't do me any favors. And this is just my opinion. But me defining something for the comfort of somebody else makes me have to be something to them or their perception of what that is.
And you're not responsible. You're not responsible to do that for them.
Exactly. And listen, I do intermittent fasting sometimes, and sometimes I wake up and eat breakfast if I'm hungry. But do you know what I mean? So I dated girls for a majority of my life, and then I'm married to a man now. To me, that's the same thing, and it's not my responsibility to have to look outside of myself for validation for it. I think at least in my situation, when I did finally come to terms and push through all of the feelings that I was having around it, I also wasn't accepted by the LGBT community because I wasn't the typical, and now things are much more broader and there's so many different forms of being gay or being bisexual or pansexual, or we have, even under those things, we have other examples of what you can fall into and identify with, right?
I think the word normal is such a very small, I will always say that normal is repressed weird, and normal is a very small box, and in fact everybody really fits outside. We're so many things as humans,
Definitely. And the thing is so for me, when I did finally, and I never actually came out to anybody, and when a lot of kids reach out to me, they'll be like, I have to tell my parents this, or I have to do this. And, you know, they're like 12 years old and they're not in a relationship. And I'll say, like, if you have that relationship and you feel that strong desire because you're connected with your parent that you want to share this with them, then you should 100% do it. But in my situation, because of all of the stigma that was around being gay, I was terrified to tell anybody. And to the point that I almost took my life. And then when I met somebody, everything just clicked. And then everyone slowly figured out what was happening, like they would with a regular relationship. If I showed up with a girl and she came around 3 times, people would be like, oh, are you guys like together or this and this? And I think like that made the pressure go away. And then I was approached by the people who accepted it, and the people who didn't accept it, like they weren't supposed to be in my life, and that was fine with me. But I didn't feel, once I broke through, I felt happy with the course that I took because I was living my life for myself. Does that make sense? And I didn't need the validation from anybody else. My mom saw me happy and she pulled me aside and she said to me, I love you as you. I don't care who you're with or what you do.
I definitely think it's valuable, and I think this is true for everyone and everywhere. Like, no one needs anyone else's validation. However, we all do need to be seen for who we are and love and surrounded by people who love and accept us. Not that it's like not to be surrounded by people who are blowing smoke, right? But truly that tribe of supportive people. So again, if we go back to like how does that affect with the ally community, it is about acceptance of people for who they are and questioning and embracing and not creating a space where a young child is suicidal for fear of being rejected.
For sure, but that's just also being a good person, right? And like that's my general feeling with like any person's rights who is pushing against adversity. Like every single one of us needs support. We all have our own thing we're dealing with, whether it's our sexuality, our gender, our race, how much money we make. We all need to be cared for and looked after, and everybody should be an ally for everybody regardless, right?
Right on. So I want to go on to another question that came up as we move into allies. How can allies better understand and support the LGBTQ community, noting the unique mental health issues that the community faces? And I want to ask Laura to talk about you with your kids and with families and what you created as a result of what was missing.
Sure. Thank you, Wendy. Yeah, it was a unique time. I mean, my eldest son was born in '89, so he was in preschool and school age in the early '90s. And me and my partner back then, we noticed that there were kids that first started bonding with my son and vice versa and playing, and then all of a sudden the parents would just not allow them to be around my son just because of who we were. It was heartbreaking, right? That has nothing to do.
That's a way not to be an ally.
That's a way not to be. But how we got around that eventually is, one, focus on the parents that do accept and don't care about who you are personally, but how you are as a parent and how you handle your kids and and how your kids act around your kids. Just being typical parents. Focus on those guys and spend a lot of time with them, but then also bond and bring together other LGBTQ families, other parents, so our kids could see how our families are and be around families that look like theirs. It was very important for the kids. I had no idea how important it would be, but it was to them.
Mm-hmm.
Son later on went on a panel at a big conference, LGBTQ family conference, and talked about his upbringing and how all that worked for him. And so many people came up to him after, would-be parents, people, gay and lesbian partners that just wanted to find out because they were scared to have kids in that climate back then.
Sure.
They really valued hearing how okay he was, and how he dealt with things and how it didn't bother him when he faced adversity. So we did start that Family Matters group down in San Diego, and it was just a godsend. And I'd say focusing on like families and finding the families that don't care about, all that other stuff. They just want to raise their kids with good kids and good families.
Yeah, I think we're in a really interesting time where again we've gone from two genders to many different languages and words for people to really identify who they are. And my hope is going down the line, and this includes race, this includes gender. Like I'm hoping in the future, not too long from now, we'll just see our only judgment or our only criteria will be: are you kind? Are you a good person or not? End of. Like the rest is wonderful because our diversity informs obviously our who we are and our culture and our lives. And Savannah, you and I can chat later about West Africa because I really miss cassava and fufu. Okay, so like I can bond with you there. We can talk because there's this specificity, right? But there's also just I think I really want to look at people and say, where's your heart and soul, and that's it.
Yeah, same.
Absolutely. And another thing, when the kids get older in the high schools, when there's gay straight alliance groups, support those and find other parents that support those. And that's where allies can really come in to help our community and the families that we support.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Bree, you also had a story about the workplace, talking about how we can be more aware of being an ally and also like the mental health issues and what comes up. Tell us a little bit about what happened for you in the workplace.
So I've had extreme positives and extreme negatives in the workplace. Like at Warped Tour, for example, a bunch of the queer identifying folks living in tour buses with me, we all started Queers and Beers. And we would have an after show party where you could buy a beer from us. The proceeds would go to gay youth centers, and you could kind of put a name and a face to an LGBT person where it's like, whoa, I'm maybe like this super tough dude who grew up not being exposed to people different from myself, but Bree, I've hung out with you before, and I didn't know that you also dated women, and that's cool. So kind of just putting it out there, but also raising money for organizations. But then on the extreme other side, I've had people that I work with sexualize it. And it's definitely a form of harassment where I'm very lucky enough that I've never been harassed with physical violence. And I've never not been hired for something because of who I am attracted to. But I feel like it does make going to work uncomfortable. When I had a boss one time say bisexuality and pansexuality didn't exist. It was just a pit stop on the way to choosing one side or the other. It had nothing to do with my job, nothing to do with what my expectations were on what I needed to do that day. And I was just kind of shocked. And when it's your boss, sometimes you don't know who to go to. So unfortunately, in that situation, I just stayed quiet. But when someone on the crew too is just like, hey, can I watch you with a girl sometime? It's like, no, that's not being a good ally. So if you ever see someone in that situation, you don't have to make a big deal about it. But if you can just be that person to step in and say, hey, not cool, not funny. Like it doesn't have to be tiger claws. It can be just kitty claws. Like, hey, not cool. And they'll think twice about saying something like that again. Because as much as now I have more confidence to stick up for myself, sometimes when it's a work situation, you do need allies to kind of come up on either side and just advocate for you and your safety.
For sure, especially if it's, what starts at the top trickles down, so that becomes the culture.
Yeah.
I know for myself, I've said one time, in a public space, we were playing pool with a bunch of strangers, and was having a great time. And one of the guys said to the other guy who was, trying to take a challenging shot, and he said, "Can I swear? I don't know. Is it a swear word? To use the P word?" I mean, he said, "Don't be a pussy. It's locker room talk, right?" And it's so ingrained. Misogyny is so ingrained in our culture. It is normalized. Yeah. So I very gently, and I said, "Hey, I like without anger or anything, I just said, hey, I actually think what you mean is don't be a coward. Don't be, take some risks. Come on, But what you actually just told him is not to be female and literally using her body part. And by saying that, you're actually diminishing like women. And again, if that's so common, how does someone turn around and have respect for their girlfriend, their sister, their mother? And it's so these are the things that become normalized and accepted. So allies, we all need to catch them, and again, like you said, without rage, without, just, hey, I don't think you're, and he absolutely was like, I never even thought of that. Like, you're not supposed to. It's supposed to be just, normal to do that. And it's not normal. It's misogyny.
And then hopefully it's the butterfly effect where maybe the next person will tell somebody, or it will just quietly die.
You're right. The behavior will change, right? The behavior will change if it's not acceptable.
Exactly.
And actually, this is my personal philosophy, but I see, first of all, homophobia as a word is not true. People are not clinically afraid of gay people. That word itself is a lie. Homophobia is an ism. It's a racism. It's an anger and an ignorance. And it's actually I see it as the end of the line of misogyny. That the anger towards women becomes anger towards the queer, and who gets beat up? An effeminate man. Don't make the male a second-class citizen like a female. And who gets beat up on the more masculine or butch women get a lot of the anger. Like, most men aren't too mad at two femme sexy women, like, as seen as sexy together, right? So it's misogynistic because, hey, little lady, who do you think you are? Go back to being a second-class citizen of a female. So I see it as the end of the line of misogyny. And misogyny harms everyone. It harms males, females, everyone in between. It's harmful because it's an ism. It's a hatred. And it prevents equality. We need that love and that tolerance and equality for all people instead of dominance.
I think also, I hate to interrupt. I think
please.
Being an ally is also recognizing that we're all much similar than we are unalike.
Yes.
And you're able to advocate for people at all ends of the spectrum. You're bettering humanity in general. And like you said, misogyny and homophobia go hand in hand. I see it daily. I see it with even our last presidential election, you know what I mean? Like, of course, like, the more qualified candidate is a woman, but still we can't get past that. And I say to people, if we can't graduate past step one, we can't get past the other issues that we have to tackle. But being an ally is very important. It's important that we're advocating for everyone in all spaces. For basic human rights, that's all we're asking for humans, to have equal rights to go outside, no name calling, no disrespect, and just embracing people for who they are. Are you a good person, like you said before? So,
and I don't think that's about being PC. I mean, that's being PC is often hiding the hatred underneath it, right? It's not about being politically correct. It's actually about practicing kindness and compassion and empathy. And I love what you said, that we are more alike than we are different, and that's humanity. That's very true. I think, Anna, you can also address this question, so I want to move into this question. And if I may point it out, because I think it's very important, that transgender women of color they're actually murdered more than anybody. And it's because if you stack it up, it's the misogyny and it's the racism on top of it, and it's being female. Every layer needs to be addressed and ended. Like, I personally don't understand racism. I mean, again, are you a kind person with integrity or you're not? That's my criteria.
Right.
So when it comes to mental health and allies and the queer community alike, expressing a person's struggle is often highly stigmatized. How do you strive to normalize mental health, mental illness, and self-care?
I think it's important that people recognize that mental health is equivalent to physical health. They go hand in hand. For so many years, mental health has had a stigma behind it, that you're crazy or that you're not fit to do something. But realistically, all human beings, we deal with different ends of mental health, whether explicit or implicit mental health issues. So I think that it's just important that people continue to be allies, continue to immerse themselves in spaces where they can meet members of the LGBT community, because I'm a firm believer in if you knew better, you do better. And I think a lot of people are underexposed. And sometimes it takes having a family member, it takes, having a friendship with someone to spark that new idea in someone's mind. And, like, once again, understanding that we're more alike than we're unalike. So I encourage people to make sure that they're joining organizations like HRC or GLAD so that they can, like I said, immerse themselves into the LGBTQ community and meet people that are just like you and I. So it's important.
That's wonderful. I really love what you're saying about being a part of, get out of your comfort zone, get out of knowing people that are just in your economic bracket, your age bracket, your race, like get out of, embrace more people and meet more people. I'm a traveler. I love meeting and diving into a culture somewhere, but also in that process, you find those similarities, you find those places where you meet, and that's wonderful. I love what you said. Can we bring in Torri and just talk a little bit about the tangible movement and resources, because this is how people can connect and not feel stigmatized.
Sure. Yeah. I actually liaison with a bunch of other organizations as well. So we're an educational and awareness platform. I'm also a speaker and a presenter for NAMI, the National Alliance of Mental Illness. So I speak on behalf of them as well for their Ending the Silence program in high schools, as well as their In Their Own Voice program for institutions and adults. And I do the CIT program, the Crisis Intervention Training program for police officers. Who now have to go through 40 hours of mental health training before they go, on the beat. So NAMI is a phenomenal resource. It's been around since 1979. They teach, and for parents, if the parents are out there listening, there's family-to-family courses where it's a peer-led group of a family member who has a mental health condition of their kid or whatnot, and listening to other family members speak about their experiences. I lead the peer-to-peer courses. MHA is also another great resource, the Trevor Project course, and the LGBTQ Center if you are here in Los Angeles. I also advocate heavily for online therapeutic approach because of Gen Z and the millennial age. So like BetterHelp and other sources of online therapeutic approaches that can be easily accessed for individuals who are younger who might not want to, go lay down on a therapist couch like old school days. You know what I mean?
Nice.
But yeah, so I just basically I liaison with a bunch of other organizations for resources, and you can always go to our website. I also just launched a tech app for people who have a spending addiction. It's called Twella. So if anybody wants to get an early kickstart on that and help themselves mindfully stop overspending, which is a big issue today for millennials and Gen Z, especially with the avocado toast and all that kind of stuff. It's really mentally harsh on the individual. But it's Twella, TWELLA.io. And as far as LGBTQ stuff, again, like the Trevor Project and the LGBTQ Center, and all of our ambassadors that I have with Tangible are also available.
Awesome. And Laura, I think you had some resources you want to share as well.
Resources for mental health in our community. I usually start with the local LGBTQ centers. There's always programs and services, most of the time for free, that you can get through that. Yeah. Absolutely.
I think finding your tribe is important. So seeking out those spaces where you can connect with your tribe. Our next question before our Q&A, so we got to answer this a little quickly because our Q&A is coming up. How can we better represent LGBTQ persons and mental health in the media? And I want to lean into Savannah first, if we may. Talking about the media.
I think it's important that the media projects the truth that's happening outside. LGBTQ members deal with homelessness, isolation, and many other variables as a result of their identity. And this is important that people get out, that the media, perpetuates, it's important that the media presents this information because it's a reality. Trans women are being murdered, and these are realities that they're facing. The more we represent on the media and the more representation that's involved, people will be able to connect with individuals that they see on TV. Times are changing. Like you said, Black Panther, that was groundbreaking. I never thought I would see that in my time.
Right.
Barack Obama, even Hillary Clinton, as far as she made it. And, for a woman as a presidential candidate. So I think it's important that the media continues to just push representation,
Representation, which also means, for every creative, tell your story. Tell your story so your story is told and people can hear it and connect. Atara, can we address you with that question about representation and fan communication?
Yeah, I'm actually going to tie this one and the last one together because my feeling on things is that there's not necessarily a stigma around mental health. It's thrown everywhere. You can't watch TV without seeing a Lexapro commercial. I know so many people who are so quick to be like, yeah, I'm on Prozac or I'm on Lexapro, but people are embarrassed when they actually have to say that they're hurting because of something, or they have a block, or they're not being able to be held back. So, like in media, if someone like Kate Blanchett in Blue Jasmine, who loses everything, right, because her husband is in like finance and it's doing all these bad deals, and everything gets taken from them, and she has a nervous breakdown. People are like, oh my God, it's such a beautiful performance, but they're looking at it at face value. So, like, I would just say, and what I try to do just as a human being is I'm not afraid to be vulnerable, because me sharing my story and my life has, with so many more people than I even realized it was possible. You have no idea how far your individual story extends and how many people it can touch. And it's so important as everybody, whether they're in the LGBT community or not, to be comfortable enough and strong enough to share who they are with people, because it's the only thing that we have, and there should be no shame on it.
Thank you, Tara. I think that's really wonderful, and you pointed something out that's very, very important, and that is that we see mental health. I mean, right now there's a conversation about it. 320 Festival is happening because this is really a public conversation now. But what you've said is really important. It's been a conversation of perhaps treatment or medicine, but not about humanity and vulnerability and the conditions people are actually experiencing. And we need more conversations around the experience you're having, not just the treatment or the pharmaceutical aspect of it. So I think that's really important, the vulnerability, telling your story. One of the questions from the audience is, and from the people joining us, what can allies do to be more supportive of closeted people? Actually, I'll throw a couple questions out, and whoever wants to sort of, like, wherever you resonate. The other question is, any advice for parents who want to be proud allies without overstepping boundaries?
I know Laura speak on this in the most eloquent way, specifically with the parenting, and in transition into that, like, what I would say is, my dad, who's like such a macho guy, and my stepmom pulled me aside when I was a teenager, and they sat me down very kindly and were like, we want you to know we accept you for whoever you are. And I was like, what do you mean? And they're like, we know you're gay. I left. I had a total emotional meltdown. I ran out of the house, and I felt seen in a way that I didn't want to be, and it was too early. So what I would say is there are ways to let people feel comfortable and express themselves and live their lives without putting a spotlight on them. And I think anybody who is trying to figure out who they are in their life, regardless of sexuality, just period, doesn't like when someone pushes them across the finish line before they're ready. So I would just say people should be more sensitive and wait for someone to come to them, and you can casually talk about things that are related without actually pinpointing that person specifically. Because I think
creating a safe space, like letting someone know that you're a safe person to talk to, non-judgmental, like you being you and creating a safe space allows someone to come to you. I know for me growing up there in my house was a wild childhood. There was addiction in my house. And I realized when I was an adult that all the people, we had 100 people in our house for Christmas. And for years, no one ever said to me, hey, I'm here if you need anything. It would have been so, as an adult, some of them said to me, oh, wow, that finally blew up, huh? And I was like, you were there all those years. Like, I was a child. How did you, as an adult, not like say any, like, I didn't know I could have come to you. Like, I didn't even know you were aware, right? So, being an adult, it doesn't have to be an adult, you can be any age, but letting people know you're there for them. Hey, just opening your heart, your door, whatever, I think is a great way to go. Also, for all those, sorry, that's my Taro, come here. She's a wonderful guard dog. For anyone watching, you can ask questions in the Twitch chat. Sorry about that, guys. Hey, Taro, good job. Thank you. I'm going to go on to another question that we did have.
What about Laura with the kids?
Yeah, did you want to add to that, of how people could be a proud ally without overstepping boundaries?
So as a parent, you mean? That was the question, right?
Yes, like for parents who want to be allies but not overstep the boundary, right? Like in Atara's case, they kind of went, oops, you're not ready for this, but they went in, right? Good intentions.
It's just like watching, an LGBTQ documentary with your child. I mean, I think that just shows that you want to learn more and you're supportive and you want to be a part of that culture in a supportive way, right?
Nice.
And talk about friends that you know in that community that you care about and what you love about them, focusing on the person, and just so they know it's a safe space.
Yeah, the safe space, open-hearted. That's wonderful. I love that.
We had it.
Yeah, I agree with Laura. My mom and I, after my dad would go to bed, we used to watch Degrassi, which has a lot of diverse storylines. It's like a Canadian soap opera that lasted years and years. But whenever there was an LGBTQ love story going on, like she would just talk about it to me like it was a heterosexual, like in the same way, like I really like them together. And so I knew that when I was ready, I could come to her. But it was kind of hands off, low pressure.
I actually said this once to a former relationship I was in. Her son once said, he put on this really cool puffer jacket and was like, "Is this cool or do I look gay?" And I again, very kindly and compassionately said to him, "Well, first of all, if you look gay, it would be totally cool. Secondly, chances are something you're wearing, somebody queer made it, right? One of those items for sure. The cool factor is really high." And I said, but imagine if you said that in front of one of your friends. One of your friends is definitely queer, like statistically speaking. And if you said that, and I said, by the way, I'm queer. I'm not offended. I love myself. But if one of your friends, if you said that in front of one of your friends, you are no longer a safe person for your friend to talk to or be around.
Yep.
So again, just that education or that, I'm going to say, I'm assuming he didn't mean it badly or negatively, but again, if that's a normalized word to use in that framework, it is, right? So I wanted to make him aware that, you just became an unsafe person for your friend, for someone that you don't know isn't out yet, right? Another question was, this one, I love this. Could you describe the moment of self-actualization, acceptance of your sexuality? And if I may, I'm going to kick this one off by saying, which moment, when, what year, still going on? I think it is. I mean, when I realized that I was gay after other people already knew it about me, the word butch was used around me when I was a kid as a derogatory word. And I literally was like, what does that mean? I literally asked, what does that mean? But I knew that, and I was called son, and I looked like a boy with my best friend, Kevin, and I didn't care. I totally didn't care. I would go around with my shirt off when I was 5, 6 years old. But I did learn very young that being a female with a more masculine presentation was really bad. So if you can imagine, I was a very femme lesbian for many years. Clearly I'm not now. But it took me, I'm going to say it's still going on in many ways. Being in a relationship with someone who fully sees me, loves, and gets me is new. Whereas in the past I felt, that part of me isn't really appreciated or isn't liked. I need to shift it, shape it. I don't do that anymore. My wellness, my integrity is everything. So there definitely isn't a moment. For me, it was definitely a process and an ongoing one. Just a lot of discovery. And the more I know myself, the more I curate a life that is fulfilling to me by making choices that are very fulfilling and satisfying. So that discovery, like I said, last year I saw a film and went, oh my God, it's the first time I'm seeing myself on screen. That's amazing. I'm seeing myself even more. And we do, a part of how we know ourselves as humans is through reflection. We see ourselves as other people see us. We get to know ourselves more, you know. So the more you show up being you, the more you're being seen for who you are. So it becomes a better match. Does anyone else want to share anything about that, of your self-actualization and realization?
Mine's pretty similar as yours. Actually, it was a fluid kind of movement. I was also like a femme lesbian at one point and wore makeup. If you can imagine that, have long hair and all that stuff. Yeah, I looked like a Barbie doll. But it took me a while to come into my own and, you know, realize who I truly was. You know, my father told me, he says, there's a D word. I won't say it out loud because it's not used today, but he says, don't act like a D.
Yeah, and I love that word now. I say that word so proudly now.
And you could in return told him not to act like a different D word.
Yeah,
right.
I could have said that. So he said, don't act like a D and don't put rainbow stickers all over your car and don't cut your hair off and look like a D. So I chopped all my hair off and I put a big old rainbow sticker on my car. You know, and that was like, you know, when I was in college, and that was my first, like, really, like, you know, F you, like, I am going to be who I'm going to be. And it transitioned all the way up until, you know, I met my wife, who accepts me for who I am. I had a habit of dating bi-curious women for many, many years, just because I had intimacy issues. And so, you know, of course, they had their own idea of who I should be, of course. And so I finally feel like I have a partner that really loves me for who I am. And I'm able to be who I feel I am in my own skin for the very first time, really, in my entire life. So it has been a fluid kind of movement throughout my years on this planet.
Beautiful. That's beautiful. And I think no matter what, you know, every human on this planet, who we are, that finding out who you are, how you, like, where your shortcomings are to boost them up, where your shadows are to shine the light. Like, the more we know ourselves and can create a life that really is fulfilling and satisfying and meets your human needs. You know, if you love drawing, spend as much time as you can drawing in your life. You know, whatever your thing is, and finding your people so that your life is surrounded by love and acceptance and fulfillment. Again, whatever label, 400 labels, you're going to create a life that works for you. You know, 400 labels, no labels. I think we just have a few minutes left for the Q&A. Is there anybody? Do we have any? Is there anyone else that wants to just say anything, or that is inspired by our conversation today?
I would say, like, my, I guess, closing comment would be, and I'll speak for myself personally, but I think it's universally true, is that we're all everything and we're all nothing simultaneously, right? So I accept and reject all the terminology in one feeling, right? And I just am, and like, today this is who I am, and tomorrow I might be someone completely different. And as long as I keep growing and keep being myself and being authentic in my life, then I don't think it really, like, nothing else matters. And I think that's the takeaway, is just allowing people to be themselves from this whole thing, and supporting them in that, and supporting them in their growth, and giving them a safe place.
Beautiful. Others to be who they are, and to do that, we need to practice being ourselves, and which for me is following your integrity. Really align with your own integrity and your truth. You're going to be living in a way that you can sleep at night. And by taking those steps, each step of the way, again, we're going to make good choices that are hopefully for the greater good as well, right? Like serving yourself so that you can serve others. Having boundaries so you can be generous. But for me, it's about following your integrity and living by it. I want to say thank you for everyone who is here on the panel. What a beautiful, diverse group, and incredible insights and sharing. Be sure to, for those watching, grab their organizations, reach out, get involved, follow their Instagram. Let's get some resources for you. I want to thank you for tuning in to tonight's show. And we're going to continue the conversation at the 320 Festival tomorrow, starting at 8:30 in the morning. For more info on how to tune in, go to 320festival.com. The number is 3220festival.com. And before that, Atara, who's been joining us on this panel tonight, he has a performance for us. Stay on, watch this wonderful performance, and thank you again for everybody being a part of the panel. Thank you for having me. Moderate. This is a beautiful conversation. Let's keep it going.
I am Tara Valentine. You probably gathered that at this point after the 40-minute talk. I'm going to play a few songs off of my forthcoming EP, The Unraveling. And thank you. I'm very excited for this, especially since it's just me and a guitar. It feels right. So I hope this resonates with you as well. This is called The Heaviness. I've got a heaviness in my soul, in my heart and in my bones, trying not to let it show. I close my eyes but never sleep, open my mouth but cannot speak, always gets the best of me. Even when I move fast, you follow like a shadow. Everywhere I go, it always finds me there. Even when I'm at home or hiding on the west coast, haunts me like a ghost of heaviness. The heaviness. I've got a heaviness in my soul, all that I have ever known. Knock me down, the roots still hold. I tried to run, you don't understand. Goes down so deep that I never can. Leave me here right where I stand. Everybody moves past, staring out the window. I wanna go where the wind blows, but you'll always find me here. If nothing in life lasts, maybe there's some hope. Haunts me like a ghost of heaviness. The heaviness. It's haunting me, it hold on to me. It's haunting me, it hold on to me. It's haunting me, it hold on to me. It's haunting me, it's haunting me. It's haunting me, it hold on to me. It's haunting me, it hold on to me. It's haunting me, it hold on to me. It's haunting me, it's haunting me. It's haunting me, it hold on to me. It's haunting me, it hold on to me. It's haunting me, it hold on to me. It's haunting me, the heaviness. The heaviness. Get some tea. That was one of the first songs that I wrote after I started my journey to really dial in and get to the bottom of all of my problems and the things that weren't serving me in my life. And it was very, very, very cathartic. This next song is kind of a mashup of a classic song that I think brings so many people so much happiness, and I wanted to write original verses to go against it, to kind of juxtapose the theme. and remind us all that we always have stuff to be grateful for. So feel free to sing along if you know the words. I see trees of green, red roses too. I see them bloom for me and you. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Remember when we belonged, when the days were long, when our time was free, and love wasn't just in the movie. Do you still believe dreams come true? Or has life become something that's happening to you? I see skies of blue and clouds of white, the bright blessed day, the dark sacred night. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. We thought we had the answers, but time's come to prove. Each day we've fallen farther, named the game and played to lose. Happiness is a word that we now rarely use. Though it's all around us, we seldom come to choose. I hear babies crying, I watch them grow. They'll learn much more than I'll ever know. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Where do we go now? We become unraveling slow down. Don't take us all. What do we do now to save our soul from the unraveling? The unraveling. I see trees of green, red roses too. I see them bloom for me and you. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Yes, I think to myself, what a wonderful world. This next song is one of my favorite songs that I've written. I'm not entirely sure if it's going to be on the EP yet, so I'm happy that I get to share it with somebody. It's about accepting all parts of yourself, good and bad, and taking ownership of them so other people can't use them against you. And the reality that the things that we don't like about other people are usually the things that we're disguising or hiding in ourselves from people seeing. It's called Pieces. I'm broken, but that's okay. We all are in our own way. I'm open, while you're disguised with my flaws. Accessorize, they won't hold me down. I found my voice, I'm screaming out. Look into my eyes, what do you see? Pieces of yourself that you just can't love. When you hear my voice, does it remind you of every single time you wish you'd spoken of? For all of the pieces you try and hide, living in the shadow while I'm owning mine. Look in my eyes, what do you see? Pieces of yourself right in pieces of me. I'm lonely, but that's okay. We all are on our worst days. I'm crazy and insecure. I'm brilliant and self-assured. They won't know me now. Watch all my colors bleeding out. Look into my eyes, what do you see? Pieces of yourself that you just can't love. When you hear my voice, does it remind you of every single time you wish you'd spoken up? For all of the pieces you try and hide, living in the shadow while I'm owning mine. Look in my eyes, what do you see? Pieces of yourself right in pieces of me. Watch my colors bleeding out, like a river runs, like a river. Like a river runs, like a river. Look into my eyes, what do you see? Look into my eyes, what do you see? This next song is a cover that I did for a film called Wonderland that I was also in and was so awkward. If you want to check it out, this song is on my Spotify, so if you love it, you can go listen to it obsessively. Moving forward, using all my breath, making love to you was never second best.
I saw the world thrashing all around your face, never really knowing it was always mesh and lace. I'll stop the world and melt with you. You've seen the difference, and it's getting better all the time. There's nothing you and I won't do. I'll stop the world and melt with you. Dream of better life, the kind which never hate. Trapped in the state of imaginary grace. I made a pilgrimage to save this human's race, never really knowing the race had long gone by. I'll stop the world and melt with you. You've seen the difference, and it's getting better all the time. There's nothing you and I won't do. I'll stop the world and melt with the future's open wide. The future open wide. I'll stop the world and melt with you. You've seen the difference, and it's getting better all the time. There's nothing you and I won't do. I'll stop the world and melt with you. The future open wide. This last song is my new single, Modern Love, which I think is out tomorrow. Is that May 8th? I have no idea what day it is here in quarantine land. But it will be out everywhere on May 8th. Here's the acoustic version, which is very, very different. Hope you enjoy it, and thank you for sticking around and spending this time with me. It's a matter of opinion. Tell me what you're looking for. Some are longing for affection, and others war. We're all wanting a connection, but too ashamed to be adored. Buried by our imperfections, we've closed door. Someone told me time is only there to light the road. Life moves fast when we're impassioned, slowly when we're bored. We are not made for modern love, modern love, oh, oh, oh. Modern love, oh, oh, oh. It's a rare conversation when someone looks you in the eye. The latest form of isolation, of our demise. Crossing over faraway places, still we feel alone. Spend all day swiping past faces in prison by our phones. We are not made for modern love, modern love, oh, oh, oh. Modern love, oh, oh, oh. Modern love, oh, oh, oh. This prison isn't real. The world we built isn't real. What we've been told isn't real. What we've been sold isn't real. This prison isn't real. The world we built isn't real. What we've been told isn't real. What we've been sold isn't real. Modern love, oh, oh, oh. Modern love, oh, oh, oh. Modern love, oh, oh, oh.